welcome to another episode of Friend Outdoors.
On today's episode, our team is still in pursuit of elk in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Brian and Mark have covered a lot of ground, and they have finally located some elk on the backside of the mountain, several miles away from camp. Later that evening, back at camp, they tell Norman and Walter what they found. The team comes up with a plan to climb the mountain the next morning and to get as close as possible to the elk in hopes that they will get an elk interested in their calling enough to come into effective archery range. Here's what happens.
Mark and Brian found these elk on the other side of the mountain. They ain't on this side, so we got to walk 4 or 5 miles to get on the other side of the mountain. See if we can call one over. And we're heading out that way now. So maybe we'll have some photographs of them. Ain't none around here. Let's go get them.
If you're going to go out west hunting elk, I'd advise you to get in the best physical shape you can get in. The thin air and the steep mountains makes it really tough on you. Here, Walter and Norman make their way up the mountain. We had to take several breaks as we climbed this mountain. That thin air was really tough on us. This scenery was absolutely amazing. You could see for miles. We continued to cover a lot of ground as we searched for elk. We saw a lot of these grouse up on the mountain. Our team is closing in on the area where Brian and Mark saw the elk yesterday.
These two laying over here, bulls. Them two's bulls. That road's looking like this way. There's gotta be satellites.
He's coming back. He's
coming. Which where? See it when we're talking about? No, I don't. It's coming, it's coming.
Yeah, he's down.
point right here. It's a bull.
Do you see?
Yeah, it's a bull.
Yeah, it's a big one. Look where he's coming. Yeah, he's crossed that path. He ain't going to the water. Stop.
There's two down to water. Mark. Count on the bull. Jason, look. Oh, that's a big one too.
That bull, he disappeared into the trees.
No, he might pop up out of there.
And Mark had that one down here at the bottom.
See the wall down here? I'm on the big one. I told you, we couldn't even see this. We was looking over there, over these trees right here. We were looking over those trees. You couldn't see this. So I told you we was coming. We slipped right down there.
We still got to get
There's a good trail that comes up the hill right here. He's coming right at us. Yeah, I took some. Those are the ones that wouldn't zoom in enough.
This bull elk has decided to lay down in a wallow. These elk were deep into the private property, and we've got our doubts that they're going to head our way.
see that one that red water.
Yeah, you see the wall?
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Here's some backstory, recap of today's hunt. When we got to Colorado, our guide packed us in on horses to our drop camp tent, which was at 10,500 foot. When we got there and we started unloading our gear, there was another group of guys there, and they proceeded to telling us all of them had had opportunities at elk. They had one really nice 6x6 bull that they got. But they broke out their camera and they started telling us, showing us pictures where these elk was at. And in the pictures there was a big pond. And they told us that they were on the backside of the mountain, but it was private. So we looked at the pictures and studied them very closely. Then our hunt began. We hunted on our side of the mountain for a few days, but we didn't have any success. So Brian and I decided to climb the mountain one morning and get up on the top. It took us over 3 hours to get up to the top. With that thin air and straight uphill, it was tough. A lot of beautiful scenery, but it's really tough. You had to be very careful. There were fire roads that we would take, but there were also some cliffs and stuff, so you had to be careful. Watch where you were going. So when we got up on the very top, we started slipping down the backside of the top of the ridge. We come up on the fence. Sure enough, when we got there, we looked down, we could see this pond. We're still a half a mile from these elk, but they were everywhere. There were hundreds of them. There was 500-600 elk down there. So Brian and I just studied the situation. The wind was blowing really hard, but it was in our favor. So we tried making some calls and whatnot, but we didn't think that they could hear us because the wind was blowing so hard in our face coming from that direction. But one time I did bugle and I had about 12 to 15 answer me. It was incredible. So we studied that area the rest of the day. We'd call occasionally, we would just watch. But those elk, they didn't have any reason to come up there. I mean, they had water, they had food, cows. I mean, everything was down there. They're not going to climb that mountain for just a couple elk. So we did our best that day to study the terrain and everything and hope that, that they would maybe climb that mountain in the morning or something. So we made our way back to camp, and when we got to camp, we told Norman and Walter what we'd seen. We'd laid out everything that we'd seen in our plan. The next morning we decided to get up and climb the mountain. Again, it took us over 3 hours. Time you get to the top, I'm telling you, you were wore out. But we finally slipped down, and on the footage you can actually hear some of the bulls bugling as we're walking toward the backside. But sure enough, when we got back down there, they were in the same place doing the same thing. They were all over. They just, at a couple points we thought we might have a couple heading our way, but things just didn't work out on this particular hunt. So we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey, if you did, please hit that thumb up like button. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. It just helps our channel to grow. On this channel, we've got a lot of short videos of a lot of different animals. If you get some spare time, check that out. We really think you'll like it. We'd also like to thank our military personnel. Thank you for your service. Now for a preview of our next episode on Friend Outdoor Ventures.